Welcome back, everyone, to our Proverbs 31 Mom podcast. I was reading the other day, was wanting to read a lot of Proverbs this month because it's all about wisdom. So I came across Proverbs 16, and Proverbs 16:3 really stood out, which is commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plan. And I've heard this many times in the past, but only last year I started thinking about what does this actually look like for me when I'm at the year end, closing out the current year and then planning for the next year. And this was last year actually, when then I've been in business for I'd say almost 8 years. And last year, so this was 7 years into the business, and I was sitting at my desk and I was staring at my screen and completely overwhelmed, kind of with all these inventory management decisions, hiring decisions, and all of those thoughts flooding at the same time. And, that overwhelm, like, oh, I'm closing my year out and all these are still open-ended items. And that's when I realized that it was about just my own mind wanting to control and not really surrendering to God's plan. Now, the year before, I had made this plan, sat down, and prayed about it, and yet I was back there struggling with trusting the Lord, and that's why this verse really stands out to me. And I pray that that's the same for you. I'm sure a lot of you are at the year end right now, sitting and going through the same exact emotions that I am. And it feels like you want to have, you've had all these goals, all these numbers in your mind that you wanted to accomplish, profit margins, or revenue goals, or just simple goals of like, hey, I want to start this business, or I want to hire my first employee, or I want to grow my team to a team of 10 people, or 50 or whatever, and you didn't hit your goals. Or maybe you did, but there was a lot of struggle going through that. And I'm just sharing that these could be some similar things that you're going through. And I want to say that with the principle of divine guidance or goal setting, you are freed up completely, because you know that it's not about you and it's the Lord guiding you, and you seeking Him and requesting the Lord, this is all my plans. This is what I wanted to do, but yet this is not what happened. Or this is what happened, but is this all according to your will? Is this glorifying you? And you'll really find that peace that surpasses all understanding, even in the midst of, entrepreneurial challenges. One of the things I also wanted to talk about, which I kind of brought up in my the first podcast, was about a situation that I had been through actually last year. Very stressful, because when this happened now, I was completely unprepared. It's one of those kind of things you take for granted. This was my relationship with a very, a long-term supplier who suddenly emailed me saying that, hey, we are going to be increasing our costs, prices for these products, because one of our raw materials that goes into this product has gone up. And this has never happened before. This is right during this holiday season. When I say holiday season, it's really like November, like October-ish, because as some of you know, in the retail world, in CPG, your fourth quarter is your holiday season, because that's when everything kind of starts selling. And anyway, so I get that call, email, and then a call saying the prices were going up, and I was completely shocked, because now I had to make this huge purchase order, but this guy was going to increase his prices almost, I would say, close to 40%. 40% was unbelievable. It was crazy, because I was like, what? When I say 40%, it means what? So a product that's, let's say, $9, that's going up by around roughly to $13, right? So it doesn't seem a lot when it's one unit, but when you're buying thousands of units, it kind of adds up. And on top of all of that is the fact that, especially being an Amazon seller, there's so many fees that I have to pay. Just the platform fees, PPC costs, all of these things. And I just was not left with any margin at that point. And I sat back and I was like, how can my first instant reaction was like almost like feeling betrayed, because I'm like, this person could have told me 6 months ago, not at this point, just when we are placing the biggest order of the year. And there's all these emotions. And I kind of felt I was paralyzed for some time, and I couldn't get myself to, unfreeze, because I just couldn't think clearly. And I was like, at that point, I remember just going on into my, I would call my, I wouldn't, it's not like a prayer room, but it's like a place where I pray, where I was just spending some time. And I said, I don't even know how to react, Lord. Like, I don't even know what to do. Give me wisdom even to pray. put words into my mouth, because I just couldn't. And I said, hey, this is your business, yet I feel this feeling of if it being mine. Why is that happening? That moment was that moment of realization that, oh my goodness, I have this idol. I'm attached to this business. And I was like, Lord, help me surrender. And that's what happened. I just started reading the word. I started reading a Bible passage, started writing my thoughts, because I just couldn't pray. And as I was doing that, I was able to, break out of that state of shock and pray specifically about that, which I did. And miraculously, I think it was the next day before I placed that order again, my supplier calls and tells me that, hey, you know what? We found another raw material supplier who actually is lower than this other guy who we've been doing business with. And you know what? Your prices are going to stay the same. And in fact, he also added and said, we are also happy to do a promotion. It was just such a miracle. But I'll say, just with that experience, what became clear to me is, now, yes, it was a win, right? Because in a win, I'm saying is like, it looks like, oh, God answered my prayer. God answers our prayer all the time. But this happened in a way that was favorable in my mind, right? But that experience just led me to realize that, you know what? Even if this had not gone that way, it exposed whatever I need to do every day. It really made me realize this is the position I need to be in, which is prayer. So when you're planning anything, like your goals for this year, I would ask you to, instead of just looking at profit margins and competition, ask questions like, will this product genuinely help families? Does this align with your Christian values? Is this something I can sell with integrity? Because when you ask those questions for goal setting, you know that those answers, those metrics that you're going to look at the end of the year will be a lot more meaningful than pure numbers. And that's kind of what I had to share about, how the Lord brought me about to seeking Him. And just another important thing here, and this is one thing I tell my kids also, which is because they play in different competitive sports. My son plays in football, my daughter volleyball, and they always want to win, right? And it's always that in our heart that everyone's got goals, right? You want to win. And the word of God is there for a purpose, where it says in Matthew 6:33, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. And that to me means that we focus on the first part. The second part, which all that he gives to you, is something that he's going to decide. What does that look like? Whether it's, no increase in supplier prices or increase in supplier prices, whether the business is going to grow or skyrocket exponentially or not, whether your child is going to win that game or not. Those results are no longer something that we get to control. And it's a good thing that we don't control that, versus us just controlling about, am I seeking his kingdom? Am I seeking, his righteousness? It's something we can do. And I think that's the shift I've had. And that's really like redefining what success looks like.
It's really very profound and life-changing, and I appreciate that you shared that with everyone. And I'm taking it to heart for sure. And it's such a great reminder, especially as we're coming to the end of the year. Everyone, like you said, closing out the year, looking to set goals for 2025. It was just perfect timing for that message and that wisdom. Thank you. So over in our Proverbs 31 Moms group on Facebook, we've got a new resource available. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Sure. So we will have a free Proverbs 31 business planning guide, and we're going to kind of break down for you how to set God-centered business goals. And it requires the same things that I just shared, right? Like, how do you have God-centered metrics versus traditional, metrics such as, oh, I want to reach $50,000 in monthly sales, versus thinking about, okay, I'm going to serve 1,000 families with excellent products. That's what we're going to cover in that, or something like launch 10 new products and or fulfill the needs of the community. So just trying to be able to like think about success like that is what we're going to include in that guide. Also, part of it will be some scripture verses that you need to always look at, because that encourages you, those affirmations that you need to say loudly, because Satan is there, roaring lion, waiting to devour. And then, other things about just 2025, some encouraging passages also included in that.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll put the link below for you guys to check that out over in our Facebook group, Proverbs 31 Mom. And thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.